All right. So, hello, everyone. Welcome to Gallery Baird. I'm Liz,
I'm Vanessa.
and we're doing a Meet the Curators interview. So, normally every month we interview our artists, but this month you guys are going to get to know a little bit more about the people who run Gallery Baird. And we are going to interview each other using the same questions that we ask our artists every month. So, let's
Yeah.
get started. So, Vanessa, I'm going to ask you my favorite question, or at least one of my favorite questions that we ask our artists every month because I love the creative answers that we get back. So, you
Yeah.
are a new addition to the crayon box. What color are you?
So I had to spend some time thinking about this, honestly. I am like I can't pick a favorite color. I've never been able to. I go through phases. There was one time where I black was my favorite color and I had four
Very fair.
different black t-shirts that I just rotated through. So I settled on a crayon with multiple bands.
Okay.
So one would be black, another would be a really dark navy, a hunter green, like a
Mhm.
burnt orange, and then in the center, a little tiny stretch of gold, just cause
Okay.
little
Knowing you
sparkle.
personally, you've got a lot of earth tones going. I mean, look at your background. Like all the colors you
Well,
just mentioned are in your shot. So, um, I see that for you. I like that for you.
so Liz,
hmm
you're a new addition to the crayon box. What color are you and
Truthfully, I have given this zero thought. Um,
why? Totally fair.
what I really like when we ask our artists this question is that they'll come up with a completely new color. So they'll basically just be describing a color, which I think is really cool. And I'm not
Yeah.
sure that I'm that creative. So my inclination is to say hunter green, not to copy you, but
I
green is
mean,
my
whatever.
favorite color. Yeah, I would say maybe like a hunter green, even though that's already in a crayon box.
I mean, it doesn't have to not be in a crayon box.
Yeah. Um, Another way for me to think about this is like you're a new eyeshadow and a palette.
Oh, okay. All
Yeah,
right.
that's kind of like how my brain would interpret it because I'm not using like crayon boxes. I don't know, because I'm not an artist. So, uh, if I were an eyeshadow in an eyeshadow palette, I would absolutely be a powder baby blue. So,
Okay.
yeah, I would either be green or blue. Maybe I would just be, I don't know what a fusion between hunter green and powder blue would look like, but maybe I would be that. And I'd call it I don't know, happy witch or something that sounds gross, but this is the vibe I'm imagining with this color. So
Yeah.
that's my really long-winded answer about what color I would be.
No, I like it. Combination of powder blue and hunter green,
Yeah.
but as an eyeshadow.
So, Vanessa,
Yes.
what has your path to art looked like?
I feel like I have the similar answer that most people do, and that I've always been really interested in art. Uh, Ever since I was little, I was always drawing. I love drawing. I always was taking art classes. Um, the moment I decided to go to art school and that's what I was gonna do was the summer before my senior year of high school, and I applied to a summer camp in New York State that was kind of like a college prep thing. It was a month long. It was in Buffalo, New York. So that was 6 hours from
Yeah,
where
that's
we grew
far
up
from where we grew up.
in Lake George. Yeah. So I was there for an entire month. I took two classes that were each an hour or 2 hours long, that were like art focused. So like I chose a sculpture class and then I chose a printmaking class. So I had those two classes every day. And then there were also like 3 optional like art history lectures that you could go to like late at night. And there was like a 5-hour open studio time every day. And you know, they also took us on like field trips to different places, but like going out of our small town where like I was the art kid, you know, and moving into this camp that, you know, everybody else was also the art kid and was from all over New York State, um, was really like, wow, okay, like there are so many people out here that are doing so many cool things, and I just decided that that was it. I was gonna go to art school, and from there mass art and so on and so forth, and still keeping at it.
Yeah, I remember you going to that. And I remember we Skyped. I don't remember what we talked about, but I remember us Skyping while you were away. So a precursor to, I guess, us running the gallery.
Oh my god, seriously.
Now we Zoom all the time. So
Literally.
yeah. Well, that's awesome.
So I guess like on your end then, you are currently doing your grad studies for museum studies, right? Yeah. So how did you get involved in museum work? What led you to that?
I remember being in high school, and like I feel pretty lucky in the sense that I really knew like what I liked. Like I definitely wasn't going to be a kid that went to college and like was undeclared. Like I knew I wanted to go to school for history. I was good at what I was good at, and I was not good at what I was not good at. Ask my algebra teacher, literally any math teacher I've ever had. They'll tell you I'm terrible at math. So, and I remember thinking like a senior in high school being like, yeah, I feel like a museum could be a cool job for me. But then I kind of forgot about it. It wasn't like I never like didn't it's not like I didn't want to do it.
Right.
It just wasn't on my radar really, and I kind of wish it had been. So I got my degree in history and I focused on Russian and Eastern European history. And that was a really great experience. I actually remember my senior year of undergrad being like, oh, cool, there's a class offered on museum curating. I should probably take that. And then I didn't for some reason. And I kind of wish I had, but that's okay. So while I was working, while I was an undergrad, I was working in the library. Shout out to Sojourner Truth Library at SUNY New Paltz. And I had like the best experience. I loved working in the library. And I was at the reference desk. So I was assisting reference librarians. So most of the time that meant like people would come up to the reference desk and they would be like, I'm writing a paper on ancient Chinese Buddhist practices, and I have no idea where to start, and I feel really overwhelmed, and like basically I need help. And so my job would to basically be to help them find resources. So a lot of the times I was teaching people how to search the catalog, how to find books within the library, which I loved doing because it was like a scavenger hunt, and it was like finding the book was so exciting for me. I was like, yes, another one. I got it. Like
Treasure.
yeah, exactly. Anyway, I came out of undergrad being like, okay, cool. I'm going to go to school for library science. And University of Albany, which is near where we grew up, like they have a pretty good program for library science. I was also looking at other places around the country. And so I was like, yeah, that's what I'm going to do. So, and then I got the chance to move to New York City, and I was like, okay, I'm going to do that. But there's like Queens College has a library science program. So it wasn't like that was off the table. I'd say what kind of shifted me more toward a museum career was after I traveled abroad and I went to the UK, and I was like, okay, I love this. I want to move to the UK, and I still feel that way 3 years later. And but I realized at that point that I wanted a job where I was going to be able to do some traveling,
Mm-hmm.
and libraries aren't necessarily that cohesive to traveling because, for example, I guess the biggest reason is that our library system here in the United States is the Library of Congress. I believe they also use that in Canada as well.
Okay.
But the UK doesn't use that, and what the UK uses, Germany doesn't use, and what Germany uses, Russia doesn't use, and so on and so forth. So I was like, okay, like that's going to be really limiting. Basically, if I want to get a job abroad, it probably couldn't be in a library. And in fact, like my degree in library science would only be recognized in the United States and Canada. So
Gotcha. Okay.
a lot more community outreach and community engagement going on in museums, especially now because museums, there's definitely a trend to like make a more holistic experience at a museum instead of just going there, looking at the painting and going home. So
Right.
I really like that aspect of that work. I want to go into like public programming and community outreach, adult learning, continuing education. So that's kind of how we ended up here working on this gallery together. Our paths converged, which I think we kind of always thought might happen. Um,
Yeah.
so speaking of art, who would you say is your favorite artist?
My favorite artist. So I'm gonna have to go with Nick Cave. So Nick Cave is oh my god, I've done so many different like presentations on him just because like he was my go-to for everything in college. Well, almost everything in college, but yeah, I always really loved his work, and he was one of the first, artists that I really enjoyed that like I remembered the name and I was, because, describe what he does and like all that kind of stuff, which he makes these sound suits, which are probably my favorite of his works. He does some other things, which I'll talk a little bit about, but he makes these sound suits that are wearable, and when a lot of times when you move in them, they do also make sound, but it's this kind of community, experience that happens when they're being used and performed in. Another thing that I always really liked was there was one series that he had worked on, there were wall sculptures, and most of his work is made from repurposed materials, so things that you might find at an antiques or a thrift store or something like that. And there were these wall sculptures, as I would think most people would say, of these found objects that were just made to create these sort of like paintings, and he called them paintings. He didn't call them sculptures. He called them his paintings. And I always really loved that as somebody who is like a 3D artist, but also likes to paint and also kind of likes to mix materials and mediums. If I make something that somebody would call, oh, it's mixed media, to me, it's a painting. So just to kind of like connect with, somebody that makes these amazing works, and to think of my work in slightly similar ways, was really great.
Yeah.
So yeah, he's probably my favorite.
Cool. Yeah.
So if you could be any work of art, what would you become?
Really would become Portrait of Adele Bloch-Bauer 2 by Gustav Klimt. He is my favorite painter. I love literally every piece of artwork he's ever done. If this gallery is wildly successful and end up having a lot of money, like I will one day own a Gustav Klimt. I have to. Um, the first time I saw that painting was at MoMA. I think I was like maybe 20 or 21. And I was just like so taken aback by how elegant and beautiful Adele Bloch-Bauer looked. And he did that painting in 1912. So definitely like fin de siècle Vienna, like going on. And that whole time period is really fascinating to me too. I'm like weirdly obsessed with Downton Abbey, so it kind of all makes sense that I would like artwork that comes out of that time period. Also, shout out to Gustav Klimt's painting Lady with a Fan, because I would also love to be that woman. I just feel like I'm drawn to like the way that he portrays women or like female presenting bodies, because he just makes them look so elegant and beautiful, and like his color tones, like he can be really bright, but there's also something very like muted about his work, and it's just, and so I would be Adele Bloch-Bauer any day of the week, because she looks amazing. Yeah, so that is totally the artwork that I would be. I'm not an artist, but you are. So, if you had to choose one of your own pieces
Oh boy.
to become, what would you choose?
So focusing on the paintings, I'd probably have to be either my painting Trickle, but probably it would be Wisp, which is kind of a blue and white and brownish grays, like it's got a lot of movement in it.
Okay. There's a lot of
And then
movement
like
in your
these
life.
kind of little like, well, yeah. So like that's kind of why I feel like it's got movement in it, but it's like soft movement. And I feel like I'm always going in different places and doing lots of different things, but I'm not a very loud person.
Yeah.
I would say I'm very understated in a lot of ways.